It says in the Bible 365 times, do not fear. So whoever wrote it or divinely downloaded this information truly understood the human condition, because we humans are wired for survival. The question we have to ask ourselves is it truly serving us nowadays? I would say that the majority of us are in perpetual survival mode, trauma mode, a deep, fearful state. And especially entrepreneurs, right? We're wired for that chaotic survival mode. Sometimes this deep, perpetual, fearful state is pretty legitimate, right? If somebody unfortunately has a circumstance where maybe they're dealing with an illness, maybe they're dealing with poverty, and they truly have a negative bank account and they can't put money on the table, that is a real issue, and it justifies that survival mode. But for the most part, because we are still hanging on to this survival mechanism, we feel this perpetual fear state regardless of what the circumstances are. Whether you're a millionaire and everybody is healthy and you honestly don't have anything to worry about, I would say that the majority of people still feel worried and anxious and overwhelmed on a day-to-day basis. Forget about being in a fight, flight, freeze mode. Myself included sometimes, because if you have had trauma in the past, you could find yourself hours later questioning and reflecting and asking yourself, what happened in these last few hours? What did I actually do? I spent all this time and energy and space worrying, hypothesizing, being in my head, having all these thoughts, when in reality, I could have freed up that space and done something about it. So in this video today, I want to talk to you about fear, what happens in your body when you experience fear, and how can you move through it in a couple of steps in order to find yourself on the other side with freed up space and energy to create the life that you truly deserve. But before doing so, please like and subscribe so this video could be more visible to more people. All right, what is fear? Fear is actually a very physiological experience in your body when your mind perceives danger, that you are not safe in a moment, right? So a lot of people think that fear is like emotion, but I would say that it's more physiological. It's in your body, it's felt, that fight, flight, freeze. We are literally wired to experience when we perceive that we are not safe. I like to call it that we have a danger radar, right? And if you look back to ancient times, in the more primitive days, we needed this danger radar on a day-to-day basis, because if you wanted to feed your family, you had to go out and get that food yourself. So if you were out in the wilderness and you went hunting, you needed this danger radar to alert you if something was on your path, a predator or something that could put your life in danger. And in those moments when your mind perceived that you are in danger, you had a choice. You could either fight this beast, you could flee, or you just stay frozen in place and you can't do anything. But what happens nowadays with this same response? When we have fight, flight, freeze kick into our system on a regular day, and maybe you're a parent, or maybe you're an entrepreneur or a high executive that has a lot of responsibilities, what happens is that if you're in freeze mode, you can't really get to do anything, right? You can't be productive because this is holding you back. Your mind is telling you that you are in danger. Your danger radar is picking up on something, and your body is responding to that pickup, and it starts releasing chemicals, cortisol, adrenaline, all of that, right? It puts you into hyper alert for no good reason. Now, of course, there's a reason because we're wired this way, but unfortunately nowadays, it will kick in if maybe somebody didn't respond to your message on time, if you perceive that you're not liked, if you perceive that maybe you're going to be abandoned or rejected, and it feels like your life is over. If you're on a path to creating your dream life, this mechanism could kick in if you have a perpetual fear of success or failure, and it won't allow you to take that next step. It won't allow you to forge on your path because it will stop you. Your body is literally designed to either fight, flee, or do nothing. And we all know what happens when we do nothing. And again, I'm speaking from experience because this is something that I myself had to deal with due to previous trauma, where it just feels safer to hide, right? To not do anything. I'll tell you even this much, right? Even before recording a video, is it easier for me not to? Is it easier for me to just hide? Yes, of course. But this is why I'm creating this video today, because I want to teach you all the steps that you could take to move through it, because you are worth so much more than feeding and enabling this survival mechanism in your body. So we don't want to fight it. We want to understand it, and we want to learn how to move through it. So what happens is when you experience fight, flight, or freeze, your body starts releasing a tremendous amount of excess energy. Why? Because you need this energy to fight the beast, flee the monster, or to hide, right? So if you have all this excess energy, but you're not really in a situation where you need to fight, flee, or hide, or freeze, what happens to all that energy? This is the epidemic, so to speak, in today's society. Because now your body is filled with chemicals. You have all this excess adrenaline, and you're not taking action. You're not moving. So now it's staying in your body and it's circulating in your body. And your brain is picking up on this activity because we have this constant feedback loop between the brain and the body and the body and the brain. And the brain says, ooh, something is going on here. This is not right. And it starts overthinking. Okay. This is where your racing thoughts come in. This is where you start, creating all different types of stories because of your body not feeling safe. And this becomes a perpetual cycle. So don't beat yourself up if this is what you are experiencing, because as I mentioned before, this is something that I experience, and it's something that I have to work on almost on a daily basis. Again, especially if you have any type of trauma that you are working through, your body just has a memory of certain things that will put you into a triggered state automatically. It could be reading something, listening to something, or even a thought. Anything could really put you into that state. And that's all okay, because we're understanding that our body is trying to protect us. There's a reason for it, and we have to learn how to move through it. And I'm going to teach you a couple of simple steps that you could do to actually release all that energy, bring your body back into homeostasis, into a balanced state, so you could think clearly, right? So your messaging between your mind and body to mind could feel a little more stable, more secure, more certain, more truthful. Because when we are in a fight, flight, freeze situation, we are not perceiving reality correctly. Because remember what we mentioned before, you perceive danger. Your danger radar picks something up. That pickup, that alert, that trigger, whatever it is, usually does not warrant a fight, flight, freeze response. Yet we are all wired the same way. And I would say that the heartbreaking thing is that in today's generation, the societal conditioning is one of fear. And that's horrible to think about. Think about the media. Think about what happened even over the pandemic. So much fear mongering. What do you think that does to our body? Zaps us, triggers us, and then we just go into this fight, flight, freeze. And then we just walk around with high cortisol levels, stressed out, adrenals that are shot. And mind you, that happened to me several years ago. And we caffeinate ourselves to, get this fake energy. But what are we really doing? We have to learn how to move through things in an organic and natural way as much as possible, but we have to actually implement it, and we have to do it. Now, let me teach you how to process your fear every single day if need be in a few simple steps. So as you could probably imagine, since the fear that we spoke about until now is very physiological, then we must understand that we're going to have to address it on a very physical level. A lot of people try to think themselves out of their fear, but it usually ends up in a disaster because your body is still not feeling stable. It still has all that energy. So your mind is going a mile a minute. So we have to address the body first. So first of all, the one simple way that you can move through it is, number one, physical movement. Jump, hop, skip, jog, run, punch a bag, punch a pillow, move. The energy that has accumulated in your body due to the stress response needs to get out. It's just energy that needs to move out of you. And a very simple way is to just move your body, right? So you could dance, turn on the music, and just move it any which way that you want to. And of course, it's going to be challenging sometimes, because if you're in freeze mode, the last thing your body is going to want to do is move. You're going to be on the couch or in your bed or on the chair and just overthink and think about moving and think about needing to, dance or go out for a walk. But your body is just not going to want to do it. And here's where you're going to have to be the master and just do it without thinking, because you know that you cannot trust your thoughts during those moments, because in that moment, you're not perceiving reality correctly. So you're lovingly going to do the thing until you feel better. Number 2, and this one is so underrated, breathe properly. Most of us are not breathing properly. Most of us are breathing from our chest. And what we are supposed to do is breathe from our stomach. I'll give you a couple of ideas, right? But you could Google this and maybe you have your own method. So what you could do is you could inhale for 4 breaths, hold it for 2, release it for 6. Or some people will inhale for 4, hold it for 6, release it for 8. Another way is that you could inhale 2 short breaths, and then release it. And just do this for 5 minutes. You're going to be a completely different person. And here's a cool bonus for you. If you could learn how to move your body and breathe properly simultaneously at the same time, that's a real winner right there. The third way you could process fear, believe it or not, is by using your voice, okay? You can chant, you can sing, you can hum, you can scream, you can yell. I sometimes go into my car, don't tell anyone, and I turn the music on the loudest and I just yell. It truly releases a lot of energy, and by using your voice, your throat chakra, you're also regulating your nervous system. It's all connected. Try it. And here's another tip in general, okay? Try not to create meaning out of the situation. What do I mean by that? As I mentioned before, we are in this physiological experience that is extremely stressful in our body, right? And then immediately it sends a signal to our brain that we are not safe. So the brain tries to come up with stories or different thoughts, overthinking, to try to rationalize what's going on. And this is where we go into lying to ourselves. And I'm saying lying because, yes, we do create meaning and stories out of everything. So we have to be really careful, if we can, to address the physical without getting into this addictive cycle of creating meaning behind this experience. We have to remember that all the stories that our mind is coming up with is simply because of this release of chemicals, okay? And as long as we didn't release this extra energy, then we cannot trust our mind. Simple as that. Another one is the concept of avoidance. What I realized in my own life is that every time I avoided a situation is when I would go into some sort of survival mode, right? Not wanting to look at finances, not wanting to go to a doctor, not wanting to face something that has been going on. And the moment I face that reality, or whatever I think is so scary, and again, sometimes we have trauma around things. And I will be the first one to admit to you guys that I have experienced survival mode when my bank account was at its highest. Because when you don't learn how to move through fear, there will always be something to worry about, especially if you have previous trauma, right? So it doesn't matter. You can have $1 million and then be afraid to lose it, or question if you're going to be making more, or whatever it is. There is no logic to fear. As we all know, fear means false evidence appearing real. And it feels real, right? So we have to actually face whatever we think we're afraid of, and that usually diffuses the fear state. You could write it out. You could just go do the thing, and you will see that the moment you face it head on, it will no longer have a hold over you. When I have a trauma response, I like to call it that I am in trauma mode. Trauma responses are very real. Again, we have memories, right? So when our body picks something up, our subconscious cannot distinguish if it's real or not, because our body picked it up as something potentially dangerous. The danger radar alarm went off, and then our body doesn't know the difference. Like, with this text message, you have nothing to be afraid of. Hush, calm down. That one, oh yeah, now you're in real danger. It doesn't know the difference between right and wrong, true or not true. It picks up what it picks up, and when we get flooded, it will not filter out what is true, what is not true. So we cannot rely on our mind to filter out and do the work for us between where we really have to be afraid and what's nothing. It won't do this job for us, and this is where we come in as the boss and say, all right, I got this. I have these tips. I know what to do. Once fear has been activated, it is very difficult to outsmart this entire concoction of chemicals that just got released. You basically have zero perspective when you are in a fearful state in your body. Zero perspective. Because as we said before, right, you're in this entire cyclone loop of thoughts going 100 miles per hour, on and on and on and on. And what happens is, once you're thinking about something, your brain is just going to pick up similar thoughts of a similar frequency. So if you're in a fear state, you have to remember that your brain's frequency is now in fear. So whatever thought it's going to think next is going to match the thought before. It may seem different in your own mind, but it's going to have the same undertone. It's going to have the same vibration, the same similar feeling. So we cannot rely on that. We don't have any perspective during those moments. It has nothing to do with reality at all, and that is perfectly normal and okay. If you beat yourself up over this, then you are fighting City Hall. You are just resisting it, and it just makes matters worse. We're all wired in the same way. So you're not alone in this. We actually have to have so much compassion for what our body and mind is going through during a fight, flight, freeze response, during survival mode, during a trauma response. It's trying to survive. It's trying to look out for you. It's trying to stay alive. So we can't beat ourselves up over it, but we have to lovingly bring ourselves back to a homeostasis. We have to bring ourselves back to the right perspective. We have to bring ourselves back to clarity. So I have a few basic rules that I created for myself when I am in this fear response, and I think that this could be really helpful for you. All right. Number one is, when you are in this energy, do not try to solve anything. Usually when we have this emotional reaction, we want to go and fix it, right? We want to try to figure out how we can make it better. And especially if we're in the fight mode or flee mode, it's like, all right, what can I do? And the truth is, because we don't have clarity during those moments, it is not a good idea to try to think about what to do or how to solve the situation, because we're not going to be thinking clearly. And a funny thing that happens to me is that sometimes when I'm in that state, it makes me want to reconsider my entire life, like rethink my entire life, career, purpose, where I live, so on and so forth. It is not a good idea. It is not the right time. And I had to learn that the hard way. All right. Just keep on moving forward. There's nothing to think about. There's nothing to figure out during those moments other than getting your body back into peace. Another rule that I have is bravery. Be courageous. Sometimes we want to hide or not do the thing that we're afraid of doing. And in those moments, I tell myself, let me sit myself down and do it anyways. We want to be able to show ourselves that we are okay. And in order to send a message to our psyche that we are actually safe, if we go do the thing, it will send a message that, oh, there was nothing to be afraid of, right? It's happening. Whatever you're holding yourself back from that is coming from fear, whether you're holding yourself back from, applying for a better job, from opening another business, from scaling your existing business, from hiring people, from, making better investments for you and your family, whatever it is that you're afraid of, go do the thing. Go do research about it. Take one step in that direction, and that will show your brain and your body that you're okay. The very last rule that I have is acceptance. 100% radical acceptance of everything that is in those moments. It's very easy and it's a natural thing to want to resist what feels uncomfortable for us. When we're in that fearful state, we feel extremely uncomfortable, and our natural inclination is going to be to fight it, to resist the feeling. And the rule is, do not fight it. Surrender to the feeling 100%. Accept everything as is first. Because what happens is when you accept everything, and it doesn't mean that you want it to be that way, but you accept that this is what you're experiencing, it will 100% diffuse itself. It has nothing to stand on. Because sometimes when we experience fear, we fear that we're experiencing the fear. And we have to just be in it, accept it, and then it just goes away. Now, before wrapping this up, this is not about becoming robots or psychopaths and not feel fear at all. Our goal and objective is not to never feel fear. As long as we're human, we're going to experience fear, myself included. However, we are learning how to process fear so it doesn't have power over us. But we are continuing to be human and not try to override or disconnect or deny what is going on, but we are empowering ourselves with the right tools to not let it control us, for us to be the master, not to be the slave to it, and feel 100% equipped to know how to deal with it. And that will allow you, that will allow us, that will allow everyone to create the life that they dream of, that they are worthy of. Never doubt that. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful to you. Please share in the comments if this is something that you experience, and hopefully you're going to try one of these tools and you'll let me know how it worked for you. All right? I love you guys so much.